businessman, author of Truths, The Future of America First, our great friend and man of wisdom. I got a couple things for you, Vivek. First of all, welcome back. Your quick thoughts on Mr. Trump's what I call American renewal speech, optimistic, aspirational, and most of all, growthier. Your quick thoughts on what he said yesterday in New York.
I think this is exactly where not only the Republican Party, but the future American political elite need to be focused. The first step is to take aim at that administrative state, the regulatory state. That is the single greatest wet blanket on economic growth in this country, Larry. And I know that tax cuts are important. I know a lot of other policies are important. But number one is the people who we never elected to run the government, those bureaucrats and three-letter agencies, are writing off regulations with the stroke of a pen that are dampening American economic growth. So this idea of a government efficiency commission, and I would call it just the beginnings of a plan to delayer that federal bureaucracy and actually drain the swamp. That's how we're going to grow this economy. That's how we're going to revive our country. I thought it was the most promising part of what was an excellent speech yesterday.
Yeah, Mr. Trump spent some time talking about Elon Musk. I don't know whether he can run the commission or be on the commission or advise the commission or whatever. But I was going to ask you that. You took the words right out of my mouth. You look some of those numbers. Hillary Vaughn mentioned a couple numbers. What Trump calls corrupt spending, there's probably $3 trillion of that in the last 20 years, probably more than that. You could take out, you want to do Americans a favor, rescind the entire ill-named Inflation Reduction Act. Just rescind the whole thing, or at least rescind the obligated but unspent portion of it. Vivek, I think you and I have talked down through the years about federal assets, federal lands and building zone. Get rid of all that stuff. Now, Elon Musk. You think he's up to the task? This is a really good idea to balance the budget and, most of all, get rid of this old Washington swamp bureaucratic structure.
So the reality is Elon and I have had some great conversations. He's been passionate about this. I've been passionate about this. It was a core focus of my own presidential campaign over the last year as well. The truth is there's two phases of this. The first is, yes, identifying those areas of waste, fraud, abuse, recapturing that money. But the second step, Larry, is actually going to be implementing this. And as effective as it would be to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, a lot of that is going to require Congress and the Senate to act. But a lot of this can be done through the executive branch. Those are quick wins that could come early on in a second Trump term. Effectively, a lot of executive actions that have been taken through the regulatory state, those should be rolled back by executive action from the top. So that, I think, is the lowest hanging fruit and biggest opportunity sitting in front of us. And I think we've got to go far further than conservatives have been willing to go even in past administrations. Mass firings, not just incremental reform, 75% plus of federal bureaucrats don't really need to be in their positions. You think about many of these federal agencies, many of them are redundant and have no reason to exist. And this isn't just about saving money. Yes, it will have the effect of saving money, but it's also about unlocking ingenuity in the private sector, much of which has been overregulated. It's also about restoring self-governance in the United States, where the people who are making most of the rules today were never elected to their position. So it goes deeper than just the money savings, but that is a good place to start for a broader revival.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. I was talking to Newt Gingrich earlier today. This, as you say, in a sense, you guys are on the same page. I hope to join that page. It's two-pronged. Number one is, tear down that wall. Get rid of the existing structure, as you're saying. Number two, open the doors to a brand new structure, an entrepreneurial, private sector, technology advanced structure, which you and Elon Musk and others would be uniquely qualified to do. Do you see what I'm saying? Newt's saying, get rid of the old bureaucratic big government socialist model, get rid of it, and usher in a new free enterprise technological capitalist model. This has replaced the whole bloody story. What do you think of that?
I love it. Start with a blank slate and rebuild on the right scaffold.
Yeah.
And this is what American ingenuity was built on, the pursuit of excellence without limitation. And my only advice and caution to our own side would be, let's remember those principles and be unrestrained, because just like we don't want the government getting over-involved as the left-wing government has done, we don't want to replace that left-wing nanny state with a right-wing nanny state. We want to go in there and dismantle that nanny state. And I think if we preserve that level of clarity, we don't want to use right-wing regulations to replace left-wing regulations. We want to dismantle the regulatory state. as long as we keep that as our North Star, and I do think if I'm being fair, we got to remember that at times as a Republican Party. But if we do, I think we're going to actually have our best days ahead very soon.
All right, roger that. Another one, Mr. Trump loves crypto, loves Bitcoin, loves all that. I'm going to play a quote for you. Roll some tape on this. Trump and crypto.
And instead of attacking industries of the future, we will embrace them, including making America the world capital for crypto and Bitcoin. So we'll be the leader in AI and every other form of technology.
You know, I had a chance to buy Bitcoin around $500, Vivek. I didn't do it, so don't ask me for any investment advice. But you're a supporter of the crypto revolution, too, are you not?
I am, because I'm a supporter of the United States of America. And the beauty is we want greater competition. Anybody who's trying to stifle the competition is usually afraid of their own value proposition. I like the idea of an opt-out holding the Fed's feet to the fire. I think we need greater dollar stability in the United States. But part of the way we're going to actually enforce that is through competitive opt-out. So at a philosophical level, that's why I've always been a fan. The other reason, though, is I'm against this paradigm, Larry, of regulation by enforcement. And the crypto industry has suffered from this, but they're not alone. Again, back to that same problem of regulators at three-letter agencies that are vaguely enforcing regulations that never went through Congress. The crypto industry is perhaps the best and most recent example of how that stifles innovation and really causes, I think, infringements on liberty in the United States. But one of the things I give President Trump a lot of credit for is a year ago, this wasn't an issue he was focused on.
Right.
But he's intellectually curious. I've had immense conversations with him, even on this topic this year since I left the presidential race. And I've seen a dimension of him that the public may not get to see, which is that he is somebody who is open to learning, open to tackling new frontiers as new issues come up, from AI to cryptocurrency. And I do think that's what we want in leaders in this country, rather than just the staid politicians that like to recite their consultant-rehearsed talking points. And I think that's one of the things I respect about Donald Trump. And as I'm biased on this, of course, I think we need more outsiders like that in politics.
Vivek, you know, just on this point, generically, I only got 30, 40 seconds. But it came up yesterday in our discussions. Mr. Trump has an immense grasp of detail, policy detail, programmatic detail. He has a very wide knowledge base. I think you would agree. You know, when I served at the NEC and the cabinet, and we had meetings, I mean, he would cross-examine you. He could be merciless. He knows stuff. I just think in the debate next week and on the campaign trail, and Trump's not afraid to talk to the media, people want to see a CEO of this country, or any big company for that matter, who understands what the country's doing or what the company's doing, and some details. They want that, Vivek. It's almost a lost art. I'm going to give you the last word on the lost art of detail.
Well, you know what? Let's actually bring details back to running the country. You want details you want leaders who aren't just reciting the standard political garbage. You want people who are going to ask the tough questions. And this is why I think the Republican Party, Larry, I think will and should become the party that, especially for the role of U.S. president or for governors, for executive positions, put in outsiders, put in somebody who's run a business, who signed the front of a paycheck, not just the back of one, cashing it into their own bank account from the public. That's what we need more of. And I don't think we should shy away from that. I think Donald Trump has paved a way where the Republican Party, I predict, will and should become the party that puts business leaders who have actual successful track records in the private sector, something Tim Walz and Kamala Harris would never dream of. That's what I want to see in the Republican Party of the future.
Yeah, roger that. You know, you got to have the big themes. You got to have the big picture. But you got to know something about the machinery and how it works and where it's vulnerable. And I think Trump is doing that. I mean, he's accustomed to doing that as a businessman. Anyway, Vivek Ramaswamy, roger that. Thank you for your wisdom.